from the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today I'm very pleased joining me, Sue. Sue, thank you very much for joining me. The way I love to do it is to make it like more authentic. I like my guests to introduce themselves. Tell us a little bit about you, what you are currently doing, and then we can start the conversation from there. So the floor is yours.
Awesome, Mehmet. Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. So my name is Mysko. I am a fractional CMO and I'm the founder of Hire A Fractional. I have spent 25 years in professional services marketing, and it was a few years back where I decided to become a fractional CMO. I quickly realized that there was a huge gap in the market between the number of fractional CIOs, CTOs, CMOs across the board were looking to find roles, and they were looking for companies. And on the flip side, the companies were desperate to find the fractionals. And so that was born of Hire A Fractional. We launched back in November. And yeah, it's been a super exciting journey so far.
That's great to hear, Sue, and thank you again for being here on the show today. So, let's start from defining, what means a fractional talent, whatever it is. Like, is it fractional CMO, fractional CTO? And now we are seeing it like this more and more. So if you can explain to us what a fractional talent in general means for those who might not be familiar with the concept.
Exactly. So a fractional executive is somebody who embodies three things. First of all, they sit in the C-suite. They provide leadership to the C-suite executives. So that is both up into the C-suite as well as to the team that they're leading, regardless of the function that they're in. They provide strategy. They're responsible for building the strategy and that go-to-market strategy, regardless of function. And lastly, they're on point for results. They are the person who is, like I said, part of that C-suite. So they are embedded in the organization. And so a fractional executive can be across all the C-suite functions: CEO, CIO, CFO, CTO. What makes a fractional different from someone who is a consultant, from someone who is part-time, from someone who is just straight outsourced, is the level of engagement. This person as a fractional, they are to come into the organization. And like I said, they sit in the C-suite. And so they are truly invested in the results that they are on point, that their strategy that they're building is on point for delivery. And that is really what truly differentiates a fractional from a consultant who will come in, build a strategy, and then hand it over to the team. And then the team's on point for implementing that. With a fractional, the fractional is on point for leading that implementation, is on point for the result, and is on point for the success of the growth of the organization.
That's a great explanation, Sue, actually. Now, what do you think is the main driver to see this, kind of boom in fractional? To be honest with you, like maybe it was there under different names, but it was at the same time that I started my podcast last year, early in Jan, actually, 2023, when I started to see the word fractional starting to pick up. And as you mentioned, it's not only in one field, it's in marketing, it's in sales. So what is, the main driver to see this shift to in the market and the need for the fractional model?
So Mehmet, there are many different drivers. So if you look on the company side, so if you look at where we're at, small business owners, they can no longer afford to retire, right? Interest rates are up, cost of living is up, inflation is up. And if you also look, the amount of VC dollars is down. And in 2022, public fintechs, as an example, lost more than 70% of their valuation. So it's leaving small businesses right now in a bind, and they can't afford the high recruiting costs. They can't afford a full-time person. So what's happening is that they need an alternative. They need fractional talent. They need somewhere that they can bring in at a senior, let's just say a senior finance person, a senior ops person, a senior marketing person. They can get 3 of those people for the price of 1 executive. So if you can get a CMO, a CFO, and a COO all for the price of a COO, it's a great opportunity to help them get through that growth strategy. We know when we look at small businesses, they're stagnated. And so if you look at the data says that companies super struggle to grow between $1 and $10 million in revenue. So by hiring fractional executives, like I said, people who are embedded and engaged in getting the results, they can then help grow with that growth of a company. Then if you take a look on the flip side, on the fractional side, we have got a significant number. If you look at the Great Resignation, if you look at the number of baby boomers out there, and what's super interesting, if you look at the number of baby boomers who do not have retirement savings, it's crazy number. It's something like 46% of baby boomers have less than $100,000 in retirement savings. So we've got people with a senior level of expertise. They've got an inability to retire, and yet they don't want to work full time. And so what we're seeing is that they're looking for fractional work. They want to be at a senior level. They want to make significant contributions. They just want to do it on a fractional level. And if you look at the data on the fractional side, at the beginning of October, if you did a search in LinkedIn, you would find that there were 50,000 fractionals. So I would say this is self-identified. So anyone who self-identifies as a fractional executive. As of the beginning of March, that number had grown to 88,000 fractionals. So again, just looking at the sheer numbers on both sides, if you look at the sheer number of companies, there are 17 million companies who fall in that $1 to $10 million range. And we've now got 88,000 fractionals. The time is right to bring these two groups together and really help all of those businesses and fractionals thrive.
Interesting statistics too, and I think maybe these numbers are US based, personas, right? Now, of course, when I ask the question, I try to be on the other side. It's not to challenge or anything, but I think maybe I had this discussion with someone a few weeks ago when we were discussing the fractional model, and it was mainly from CTO perspective, more into technical stuff. But it can apply to anything. So the question that arises is, okay, I understand the benefit. Me as a startup or small business, I cannot afford the full time, but this person is going to be working with other entities and there might arise some conflict of interest. Now, how important it's for whoever want to offer the fractional service to have kind of, legal protection so they don't get sued by whoever they are working with. Hey, you're working with me, let's say 20 hours per week, but at the same time, you're working with another firm for 5 hours, another one for 10 hours, another one for 2 or 3 hours. So how they can protect themselves legally, when they are working with multiple clients? And, do you usually advise people to try to separate, the type of customer that they are working with? How do you approach this concern too?
So first of all, I'm not a lawyer, but what
Sure.
it comes down to is that working as a fractional executive, if I look at it from the company side, it's no different than hiring a consultant. And consultants have been juggling multiple clients for decades. So when I look at it from that perspective, it really is no different. From hiring a consulting and a consulting firm who have multiple clients across multiple across the same function. If I look at it from the fractional side, I really think that there's an ethical obligation for a fractional to disclose who they're working for, and frankly, not to take on clients who would provide that conflict of interest. If I am the small business or startup looking to take on a client, I would absolutely ask for that disclosure, and I would ask them to sign something. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but something along the lines of a non-compete that says that they are not working with any competitive clients. But on the flip side to that, Mehmet, where there is a huge benefit here is that maybe they're not working for the same client in the same industry, but they're working, as you say, in the CTO space on a project that is similar but non-competitive. They're able to bring a significant number of insights and benefits and best practices. So if you're working as a full-time employee, you're in an organization and you're working on one set of, one project or one set of projects within the organization, you have one lens that you're looking through. A fractional executive can bring best practices because they're looking at multiple projects across multiple companies. And that is a huge benefit for those small organizations because they're getting a much broader view of the world than what they would have gotten if they had just hired one person.
That's very logical. And of course, I didn't ask the question to get legal advice, but people like to challenge sometimes the ideas, but perfectly, you put it in the right, I would say, approach. Like if you deal with consultants or even freelancers, so it's the same thing, because usually the solution for that me as a startup or a small medium business, I think it's my responsibility to draft NDAs and have these NDAs in place with people I'm working with, the fractionals, to protect themselves. So tell me about the
Point. I'd even suggest as a fractional myself, I do fractional work. And when I'm even in sales calls, because I need to have a level of information to know if I can help them. So I will provide them the prospective client with an NDA even during the sales process, because I want to be able to receive the information that I need in order to make an informed decision. How do I know if I can help someone? How do I know if I can provide them value and an added service if I don't have a deep enough understanding of their organization? And so I often will sign an NDA and encourage the client, the prospective client, to sign that NDA right up front, like right in that sales process, so that you can get that level of depth and understanding that's really important.
Absolutely. Now, so you've been doing this for quite some time. Like, if we want to put some, ranking, like which type of fractionals are the most demanded? Is it like the ones who are more related to sales and marketing? Are they the ones related to technology? Like, what are you seeing? Because I know you are very close to this domain. So I want to like a little bit also, let the audience know what are the priorities usually comes when hiring these fractionals.
Yeah, when we look at hiring fractionals, what we typically find is that the fractional CFO comes in first. So it's usually the CFO who comes in to the organization first. And then it is often usually a toss up between ops and marketing. So they're saying, all right, we need to get our financial house in order. So CFO comes in first. Then they're saying, all right, we need to get sales and marketing, or we need to get our operations in place. And so that often depends on the type of organization. Now, that being said, this is because these are generally technology companies that I'm basing. So they have got the CIO and the CTO in place, right? They've got that tech person already in place. So if that's, if, for example, we're talking about tech specifically, it is the CFO and then either the COO or the CMO, and then followed by the CHRO is often the hierarchy of how that comes in.
Yeah, that's logical because they need to keep the books in place first. So this is when the CFO might be the first. I mean, the fractional CFO might be the first hire, I would say, which is logical, and then
Yeah.
the rest of the functions. Now, what is the threshold after which, so let's say everything is going fine, um, all going good, and now they are scaling. So at what stage do you advise them to stop hiring fractionals and go back to hire full-timers?
So again, that's going to be on a case by case basis, right? When we look at it, it's one of these, it's one of these things where it really is going to be on, on an individual basis, right? Because I've seen organizations who hire fractionals and they're at 10 million and they're running on fractional, right? So I've seen organizations who are, smaller than that, but running, they're then starting to have, more full time. I think it really depends on the type of business. If I'm going to be honest with you, when we look at, like we said, we look at the hierarchy, it just really comes down to, yeah, it's really going to come down to the type of business when I look at it and what their growth priorities are. Because let me give you an example. If
Sure.
I am, a startup and I'm growing and I am really looking to get, a series A or a series B investment, then I'm probably going to want that full-time CFO to be there, to be looking at the numbers. I might want somebody full-time in marketing and product development, again, to demonstrate that this is, that they're, really driving towards that. So I think it just depends. If we're looking at an organization who says, you know what, we're not looking to be acquired, we're not looking for funding, we're just looking to grow, it's going to depend on the type of company that it comes down to. But at the end of the day, I would suggest that if they're looking for funding or not, it will be a big driver of where they're putting their full-time employees.
Absolutely. It's case by case. And it's good you mentioned, when they're going to go and raise funds, of course, people need to see who are, especially the CFO. They care about mainly the CFO and
Yeah.
sometimes the CRO as well, the chief revenue officer. So 100% on that. Now walk me a little bit through in your current company, Hire A Fractional. So how that differs from a traditional talent sourcing firm? Like, I mean, is the process similar? Is there like some other ways you do? And I'm sure, like, also because you've been doing this and you bootstrapped actually your company. So I'm sure, like, you've seen it all and you faced some challenges. So walk me through a little bit the process. So if I come to you today, is it the same thing as if I go today to a any talent firm that they have bunch of talents and they do talent hunting? Like, what are the differences here? And tell me a little bit more about the challenges and the lessons that you have acquired down the road. Yeah.
Of course. So, no, higher fractional is different. It is a very different model because we recognize, as we talked about earlier on, the challenges are that these small businesses are struggling to grow. They don't have the resources to go to a large talent organization. So if you take somebody like a Corn Ferry or, a Michael Page, they are, they're going to charge you a significant amount of money. So we set up Hire A Fractional to be a matching service. So it is more like, think like Airbnb, think Uber. So a company will come to us. They get to list their job for free. We are not charging the company at all. And there's no upsells, like there's no gimmicks. It's not like, oh yeah, here's a free plan. And then there's all these paid add-ons. That's not the way this works. They come, they can build an account, they post their job for free. They get full access into the database of fractionals. And then on the flip side, the fractionals see the jobs that get posted. And so the fractionals can join the database for a low monthly fee. And so that is our finance model that says, the fractionals can come and be part of this. And then, like I said, they pay a low monthly fee. But we recognize that these organizations, need these fractionals. They need them desperately to grow, but yet they couldn't afford to post their jobs anywhere. And so what we wanted to do was create a place where they could post their jobs for free. And so this is a very different and unique model that no one is using out there right now, which really makes that a big differentiator for us.
That's amazing. And, I like, the differentiation and the traditional model, which is, I think maybe this what's leading you to the success. One other thing that, while preparing to the episode, I noticed you've done, and I'm curious to know, like, how was first their reaction and how it benefited you actually. I know, like, you had done some strategic partnerships with the industry giants like Deloitte and Accenture. So, how did they see it from, because these big fours, they were, any big company, they have set up models, and usually, you know, they say, okay, things are working the way it's working today. um, so how did they accept, what you propose? I mean, the partnership that you have done, and how it benefited you in your company.
So what it comes down to at the end of the day, all organizations, whether you're, an Accenture, doing what are they at these days, like $45 billion in revenue, there are immense cost pressures on every organization these days. And so they're looking for alternatives. They're looking for places where they can go to find the right talent that they need in order to grow their business. And so, whether you're a large organization like Accenture or Deloitte, or you're a smaller organization, you're a $1 million bootstrap startup, it doesn't matter. They're going to be getting access to that same level of talent. And so the fact that they can put that job in there, it's low risk. In fact, it's no risk. There is no risk for a company to come and put their job in the database and see what they can find. They get full access. So not only can fractionals apply, there is the ability for our companies they can search the database. They can go in, they can do a full search and say, hey, I'm looking for a CIO in the US that's B2B and technology focused. Like there's a number of filters that they can put on this. And then they can do a direct outreach to that fractional. And so they can go ahead, they can go into the database, they can post their job, and then they can do a search. And if there's people that they are interested in speaking with, they can then do the direct outreach. And again, that's all at no cost to them. So that is the biggest benefit to them, is that they can come in and they can explore and they can find what they need for no cost. So like I said, whether you're a large organization or a small organization, the price is the same.
Yeah, that's good to know also. So, out of curiosity, have you seen any case where the fractional at any part of the business done so much good in what he or she's doing, and they get later on called by the business owners or the founders, like, you know what, you've done such a great job, we want you full time. Have you seen such cases, Sue?
Absolutely. And so, I mean, it's been, and I'll be honest with you, it's happened to me personally. And so when you're a fractional, there are some fractionals who become fractional because they say, all right, I've been laid off from my job, or I want to exit the workplace for a while. Or as a senior leader, maybe you're part of the sandwich generation and you're saying, all right, I've got, teenage kids who need me to still drive them to volleyball, soccer, piano, but I've also got aging parents and I don't have capacity for a full-time job anymore. I want to be fractional. Then, take 10 years on out of that, the kids are now maybe in university, the parent situation has potentially changed. They may have more space. So if they've been working fractionally and then their home life and their personal situation has changed, often those people, if they get offered full time, they might take it. And so again, I think it would come down to somebody's personal situation. But generally, what I see is that if somebody is fractional, what they're valuing in being fractional is multiple or working in multiple organizations and having multiple jobs. And why that's important to them is that they like the variety. They like that they're doing strategy and leadership work. And they like that they're working in organizations where they're getting results. But they also very much value that cross pollination, bringing best practices and ideas from one organization into another is really important to them. And I often find that once you become fractional and you get a taste of having multiple clients and the ability to really have that hive mind and bring that shared thinking into organizations, they generally want to stay fractional. But yes, I have seen cases where it's just the right time of life for someone to become full time again.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, and I think we talked about it at the beginning, why we see this trend. And to your point, I think people actually they like it also sometimes because I know someone personally like, was very very senior, right? And the beauty out of it, of course, like it has also to be, and again, it's not a career advice to anyone by any way, but yeah, it's a trend, and I'm kind of doing it in different approaches. So one rewarding part is, and that gentleman who's doing it, telling me that I don't have to be under the pressure of one company because I'm fractional, right? So I'm kind of a consultant, but at the same time, I'm doing it into a leadership style. So it's kind more of coaching plus giving insights, sharing the experience, managing the team, but not into the day-to-day activity. It's like much more on a high level, checking out on them. And to your point also, so like, do they need actually to go back? So I asked a couple of people who do this today, and they tell me, no, we prefer to keep doing this on the long term, although they received also some offers to become full-timers, which is like interesting, I would say. Now,
But you make a good point about the team. And a big part of what you're doing as a fractional is that you're building a team. It's not just about the day-to-day management, but it's about building the team because you're growing an organization, right? Fractional executives are typically coming into growing organization. And in order for an organization to grow, you need to put the foundations in place. So I look at it from a marketing strategy perspective. I need to put the process in place. I need to put the strategy in place, and I need to put the people in place in order to grow that organization. Because again, as a fractional executive, I'm there on a finite timeline. I'm not looking to be there long term. I'm looking to build something that is sustainable so that I can exit. And I think that's also important because it's about building that team. It's about building the strategy, but it's about building something sustainable so that at some point you can exit. And to your point, you can do the succession planning so that you're finding your replacement. So in some cases, I've gone in and I've built the team under the expectation that I also need to hire the full-time CMO. So build the team, build the strategy, bring the CMO in, train that person so that I can exit.
yeah, actually, another trend which I start to see. So when these fractions come again at every level, I mean, whether operations, finance,
Mhm.
technology. So when they are offered later on, so they say, okay, we know that you don't want a full-time job, but we're gonna give you an advisor role, kind of. Uh, so if it's sometimes they are given equities, if they are like an early stage startups, they just say we want you to be our advisor, right? So
Mhm.
we want to make sure you keep giving us, even if your term as a fractional finish, but we want you to be part of the team without being full time. I've seen also this in some situations, which is great, right? Because again, it's good for the startup, it's good for the fractional, so everyone win, as we say. Um, Now you touched a lot about marketing. I know you do the fractional CMO, and I'm gonna ask you like
Yeah.
maybe a marketing question more than a fractional question. So, with the experience you have so today, and I'm asking this from startup perspective. Today, I just had a discussion with a founder, and we were talking about marketing mainly. Now, in marketing, there's a lot of debate about what's the future would be. Like, is it gonna be just, as we were doing before, relying on more outreach approach? Are we going to see more like content approach? I'm talking in the B2B space to be specific,
Mhm.
okay? Not in the B2C space, the B2B, because it's where I focus honestly more when I talk to founders. Or are we going to see more what we are seeing? today it's about the brand awareness and personal branding. So, from your experience in that domain, if you can give hints to startup founders today, where are the areas that they should be focusing on? And of course, they need to search a fractional who understand this as well. So this is why I asked this question in this way.
Yeah. So as a startup, so if I was to come into a startup, I would really look at what are their foundations. So it's, it's the old analogy of building a house. So there are certain foundations you need to have in place. You need to have a CRM. You have to have a way of capturing your customers. You have to understand the customer journey, and you have to have a way of nurturing those customers. So once they're in your world, you have to have a way. So that's number one in terms of foundation. Number two, you touched on it, which is brand. You need to have a good, you need to build your brand awareness. You need to have a clear definition of your niche. You need to have a clear understanding of who your target customer is. You need to know what geographies and where they sit. And then you need to have a clear understanding of what their pain points are. And so that is really that second foundation around brand. It's not just about creating the awareness, but it's really understanding and having a clear idea of who they are, where they live, and what is keeping them up at night, and what are their biggest pain points. Only then, once you have those two pieces in place, then you can start saying, all right, what am I going to do on what we call inbound? So that is your brand awareness. That is your content generation. That is referrals. That is the founder going out and making a name for themselves. And that's everything we need to look at on the inbound side. And then we need to look at the outbound side to say, all right, so what are we going to do to actively bring people in? And so is that cold email outreach? Is that LinkedIn outreach? What does that cold? Is it partnerships? Is it associations? Is it other people's audiences? What are we doing on the outbound to bring those leads in? Because at the end of the day, it's all about lead generation and lead tracking. And if you don't have a way to put a lead tracking in place, which, as I said, first off is your CRM, you need to have a CRM in place. And it doesn't have to be expensive, right? There are very, very affordable CRMs out there that founders can put in place. But if we don't have that tracking, because the number one thing we have to do is track leads. We have to be able to track the number of leads that are coming to the organization. We have to be able to attract, we have to understand how that turns into an MQL, how that turns into an SQL, how we translate, how do we go from inquiry to opportunity to close? And then once we're there, we need to put that whole set of metrics in place. We need to understand the KPIs. What are we tracking? What is our close rate? What is our churn rate? What is our lifetime value? So having those metrics is absolutely critical. So you say, what's important in marketing these days? One is the foundation, making sure you've got that CRM. Two, your brand messaging, your customer journey, your niche, your audience. And then, then it's inbound in terms of content generation and brand awareness. It's outbound in terms of, cold LinkedIn, cold email. And then it's all about putting that lead scoring, lead tracking in place so that we can track everything right from inquiry to close sale to churn to lifetime value.
Absolutely. Like if you want to put kind of final tips and suggestions for anyone who's out there, maybe listening to us today, uh, maybe one or multiple founders listening us today, and they want to start their journey in hiring fractionals.
Right.
So, what advice you would give them?
So the number one thing that I would recommend is do a needs assessment and really understand which fractional you need. Everybody says, I need leads, I need to grow my business. But where are your gaps? And so you need to do that gap analysis to say, if I'm going to grow my business, I need a CFO. Or if I'm going to grow my business, I need someone to help me with operations. Or if I'm going to grow my business, I need that marketing person because I really just do need lead generation. I have product market fit. I have all of these other pieces in place. So the number one thing that I would recommend to a founder or to anyone who's considering to hire a fractional, I would say do that needs assessment, do that gap analysis to figure out which is the right first hire for them.
That's great to hear, Sue, actually. And thank you for sharing this. It's very valuable. As we are coming to an end, tell me where people can get in touch with you and find more about Hire A Fractional.
Yeah, so come to the website, hirefractional.com. Easy branding. And for me, just reach out to me on LinkedIn, Mysko on LinkedIn, and I would absolutely love to connect with you.
Sure, I will make sure that the link and your LinkedIn also link, it will be in the show notes. And again, so thank you very much for sharing your experience and talking to us today about the fractional and everything fractional. As a closing note from my side, I believe we're gonna see this more and more. And by the way, maybe I should have asked you, and actually you can tell me your opinion. I believe also, and you might not find it directly related, but AI also helped us to come out and say, yeah, we can be fractionals, because actually we can have some help in automating things, and that we can do more with less, kind of. And I believe the way moving forward, at least for now, I'm expecting to see more and more fractionals. Uh, Funny enough, as I was telling you at the beginning, beginning of last year, there was no single title of fractional in my region, in the Middle East, in Dubai, and this region. Today, I start to see more and more people using this title, mainly in the technology space. I start to see a lot of fractional CTOs. I start to see some fractional um, CFOs as well. And but I believe the trend is moving up. And to your point, people want more freedom. They want more experience with more sectors. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. So I tried to a little bit conclude what we have discussed today. And this is for the audience. So if you just discovered our podcast by luck, thank you for passing by. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did so, please subscribe and share with your friends and colleagues. And if you are one of the loyal followers who keep coming, thank you very much for keep coming. And please keep sending me your suggestions, your comments, and approaching me with anything that you want to discuss. I'm available on LinkedIn mainly, so you can reach out to me also as well. And as I say always, thank you very much for tuning in. We will meet again very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hit that subscribe button, share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.